Hi everyone, my name is Simon Morse and I am a children's book author and illustrator based in the West Midlands. And in this little video I'm going to give you an insight into how I create the illustrations for my books, but also an insight in what I teach children when I visit primary schools to deliver an illustration workshop. So, for the purpose of this video, we're going to start with an idea, and my idea was basically just that of a cowboy because I think cowboys are cool. And in this picture, the cowboy is being chased by some Indians. Now, the start of my process is to just start by scribbling things. I literally scribble sketches on a piece of paper, and these sketches will be no more than about a 5 centimetre square area, purely because then I can't get bogged down with any details. And I'll create a few of these, maybe 3 or 4, and I'll choose the one which I like best, which you can see here in this video there. Now, if that picture looks like it works okay, then I will actually look at it and see if the pose works, and if it does, I can basically steal these basic shapes from that pose to simplify my character, and I can use them to create a base for the illustration that I'm actually going to create at the end of this video. So as you can see here, I've nabbed the shape of his head, his body, his arms, etc. And then I can use those to come up with this, which is going to create the base of the illustration. Now, when I go to primary schools, this is really alien to children because they're so used to just starting by drawing eyes, nose, mouth, any of the features that basically they feel like they want to start with. But by doing this, it actually means that their character that they end up with has a really good solid pose, that all the parts of the body are the right size and shape in the right place, and it really simplifies the process and makes them come up with something that's a bit more step by step and a bit more systematic as opposed to just going for it. So as you can see, I'm adding these details now to that simple base that I started off with. And when doing this with the children, they tend to come up with some really strong character designs and illustrations purely because they've had that process simplified for them in a way that they probably haven't had done before. And it works really well and comes up with some really good things. So as you can see here, this is the final sketch, and I'll sketch that all out in pencil, and I'll do that nice dark line art with this brush-like pen you can see here. Now this pen is great for doing thick and thin lines, and it's very dark and very clean, and it means that what I can then scan into the computer to paint on the computer is very nice and tidy and easy to clean up. So once I've created that picture, I scan it into the computer, and I go onto a program called Coral Painter 12. Now over the next part you'll see me creating the colour for that picture, but a lot of the time I have to explain what I use to do that. So what I use is this thing here, a Wacom tablet. You can see the tablet, which is like the plastic rectangular shape, that sits on my desk, and I use a pen to paint on top of that, but actually all the painting happens on the screen in front of you, so you don't have to use a mouse sort of jiggling it around to paint things. You use this Wacom tablet. So the painting you see here is actually me moving that pen around on the Wacom tablet as opposed to me moving a mouse around to control the pointer on the screen. So again, this is something which is really alien to children in primary school, something they probably haven't experienced before, and that is this painting of a picture but on a computer. But it is in fact quite simple and quite easily explained. So I won't go into much detail now for the purpose of this video, but about halfway down the right hand side you can see that there are multiple layers in this illustration. Now the layer which is on the top is always my nice dark line work, which is the pen work which I did to begin with. And at the moment I'm currently painting underneath that line art, and what I'm doing is basically just almost as if I'm colouring in a children's colouring in book. I'm picking the colours from the top part of the page, I'm going to my picture, I'm just colouring in those areas, trying to keep nicely in between the lines to create the basic colours for my illustration. So it's really straightforward, and I genuinely think that with a bit of practice absolutely anyone would be able to do this. And actually when I go on the school visits I give the children an opportunity to do this, A, so that they can sort of see, to start off with, how difficult it could be, but then also to see that with a little bit of practice they themselves could actually be able to do this very simply just by practicing using the tools. You'll also see me adding shadow and darker patches and lighter patches in different layers on top of those basic colours. Again, this is something which children don't often think about when they're creating their own illustrations. They're so used to just colouring in the sections or painting the sections, when actually to make an illustration look more believable, to make it look a bit more 3D, like it's got a bit of form and shape, you really need to be thinking about the shadows and the lights, different sorts of shadows, really dark shadows, maybe a bit more subtle shadows. So by doing this in different layers, it's a really great way of demonstrating to the children how, by just thinking very basically and simply about where the light would reach on a character or where it wouldn't get to, they can start to think about how they can add to the shadows and the shape of their own pictures to actually make it look that little bit better. And again, because this is something which will be quite new to children, once they've grasped it and have a basic understanding of it, they start to try to do things which are a bit more advanced and actually come up with some really incredibly good results, purely because they've actually thought about it for the first time and they've actually put into practice those thoughts. Now you can see me here, I'm starting to add those highlights. Now in my process I kind of cheat a little bit, because in reality I put highlights in places where there probably wouldn't be highlights, but I like to make it look like my character's sort of got quite a lot of shape and form and sort of jumping out from the background, so I cheat a little bit by doing that with my use of highlights. But that said, it's a process which I can explain to children quite clearly, and they can see how actually that works to improve your pictures if you think that way. Now there you go, I can see you can put a shadow underneath him as well to make him look like he's in a physical space, and there you go, there is the final illustration of that cowboy running away from the Indians. Now that process, although it seems quite complicated, it is in fact really simple. So it's great fun to demonstrate this to the children and get them doing it as well, to really think about how they can simplify their own processes but come up with something which is really, really good. So if you think that's of interest to you, or you'd like me to visit your school, simply drop me an email at simon@tiapublishing.com, or visit our website www.tiapublishing.com and click on the School Visits tab and find out a few more details and download our brochure. So thanks for your time. Bye.